The other thing I wanted to clarify is we were talking about the four rivers, and I think a lot of what I said on there is good, and I can use it. But since the time we recorded that, I realized that the word that's used for parted in chapter 2, that's also used for divided in chapter 11 and 10, at the time I thought, nah, that's kind of a helpful use to shed light on it, but not really. Then later I realized, I was like, that's a fantastic use. And the reason why, and I should have realized this. I don't know if that's my microphone going bad or what. But so I realized that was exactly the word I wanted them to use. Let's see here.
And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into four heads.
Now, when God made the Garden of Eden, the Axis Mundi, he made a place on earth where he would dwell among men, that God's presence would be on earth. And he made a temple without hands. And out of this garden flowed blessings in a very real way to the whole known world at the time. And people came from all around to the garden to get fruit of life. And the reason I know this is because that will happen again in the millennium. And you can see that in Ezekiel. But this was true in the garden. And so people came to the priest who kept the garden. He dressed it and kept it. And that means to guard it. And Adam was the priest of God's temple. And people would come for the fruit of life. And it would bring health and extension of life to mortal man in a very real way. This was God bringing blessing to the earth. And rivers of living water flowed out of the garden. It began at the Gihon spring and ran down through the Kidron Valley to the Dead Sea and brought life to the whole area. And this will happen again in the millennium. And what happened at that point, the waters were parted to the headwaters of the four major world rivers of the whole known world. And therefore, the whole known world benefited from the Axis Mundi. And this, by the way, is why Cain knew there were people that would kill him. Okay? So, just thought I'd throw that in there. But, so you can see that when these waters were parted or dispersed or scattered, it was to the whole known world, essentially, beyond Eden. It was to Eretz's beyond Eden, and that's the idea you get when you read Genesis 2:10 to 14. It says, this river flowed through Eretz, whatever, Ethiopia and Cush, I don't know. And so that is the idea. The water was dispersed to the headwaters of four rivers, and it's to four headwaters. That's something important to understand. We don't have one head for four rivers. And that's the clue that should show people I'm the one that's right about that. But I like this usage of the same term between Genesis 2:10, from thence it was parted and became unto four heads. And when it came time for God to scatter the Edenic people into the whole known world, this same term is used.